Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, 11th to the 12th of August 1962. Practicing for Dying. T1. Here Sayadaw gave 2 talks on Vedana and how to deal with them, especially near dying. We shouldn't waste our precious life as a human being by doing useless things and leading to painful rebirths. We should observe and study on people near dying. Even we ourselves had experienced more or less these things with our family members or friends. It was quite painful to see people died painfully and in tragic ways. Their ways of dying were expressing their painful rebirths. The flood water of aging, sickness and death are waiting for us as arising. We need to prepare the Magan raft to cross over the ocean of samsara to a safety place. He taught Vedananupasana for dealing with Tanha. And he already had taught Citanupasana for dealing with Ditthi. Tanha is sharper than Ditthi, and Avijja is powerful than Tanha. Eradication of Kilesa is from Ditthi to Tanha and Tanha to Avijja successively. Ditthi constructs the lower khandha of painful births. And Tanha constructs higher khandha of human to Arupa Brahma worlds. Vedana can appear on the body and in the heart area, Hadaya Vathu. It's important to observe at the right places. It's Nata Parina theoretical knowledge, and without this, it can't do Tarana Parina development with contemplation. There are 3 kinds of Vedana. Sukha, Dukkha, Upekkha appear internally and externally of the body. Usually we only use Sukha and Dukkha in our daily life language, and not including Upekkha. In Vipassana contemplation, if not observing at the right places and Nibbāna not arises. It will be impossible if the objects and mind, Nana, are not in accordance with each other. It can't cut off DA process. Sayadaw explained the Vipassana process very simple and clear. He placed serially 5 small betel nuts on the table in front of him. The first to the 3rd nuts were representing mundane path knowledges. All are discerning Anicca, Uday Abhaya, Bhanga and Nibbāna. The 4th is the path knowledge, not seeing Anicca anymore and instead their ending or Nibbāna. It can't kill Kilesa perfectly yet, Anusaya. It's only the seed of Ariya. The 1st to 3rd knowledges are still the worldling mind. The 4th knowledge is Ariya mind. From 1 to 4 are ceasing successively, and complete with the 8 path factors. The knowledges following after the 4 are also seeing Nibbāna. The 5th is seeing Nibbāna and also killing Tanha, i.e., the fruition knowledge kills Anusaya. The knowledges of 1 to 3 are very important, because it has connection with development, bhavatabha. The 4th and 5th knowledges are arising naturally, the outcome of 1, 2 and 3 knowledges. The one with the ordinary dana and sila is a sleeping person. It is in sleep without preparing the Magan raft and doing things in accordance with Tanha. This is sleeping with Avijja and Tanha. Tanha is sharper than Ditthi. Avijja is sharper than Tanha. During the time of Vedana Pakaya Tanha, feeling conditions of craving, he was still a bodhisattva. Wanting to become a Buddha, the bodhisattva was contemplating Vedana until it became ending. Gave instruction on Vedana. Vedana arises on the body and also in the mind. Contemplate it at the arising place. As an example, on the body Sukha Vedana arises and in the mind also happiness arises. If arising on the body, then contemplate on the body. In the mind also in the same way. It can't attain Nibbāna if the contemplation is not at the right place. It means the object of contemplation and contemplative mind are not at the same place. It also means the process can't be cut off. 3 insight knowledges must arise. 1 Uday Abhaya Nana, knowledge of rise and fall, 2 Banga Nana, knowledge of dissolution, 3 Nibbāna Nana, knowledge of disenchantment. All 3 of them are contemplating of impermanence. 1 to 3 are the knowledges of a worldling. All are the path factors of a worldling. 5 Magan, known as all are in dissolution. After 3 ceasing, one does not see the dissolution. At the ending of them, see Nibbāna arising. It's the number 4 mind, i.e., the path knowledge. It is seeing Nibbāna, but still can't kill Kilesa yet. The 4th not see impermanence, but still can't kill the latent Kilesa. The 4th is the seed of Arya. From 1 to 4 can't cut off Kilesa, are the same and only different in views. After that Magan raft will appear. 4 arises for the cutting off the worldling status, not for the Kilesa. After the 4 ceases and the 8 path factors appear. It's number 5 and also sees Nibbāna. It needs to ask who shows Nibbāna to him. 4 showing it and 5 seeing it. 4 is the cause and 5 is the result. 5 is seeing Nibbāna and killing Tanha. 4 only seeing it and can't kill Tanha. 1 to 3 are seeing Anicca but Tanha not dies. 4 is seeing Nibbāna and Tanha also not dies. 5 seeing Nibbāna and Tanha dies. If 1 arises must leading to 5 and it's sure. The task is finished with these 5 points. The Buddha Dharma is clear-cut and in details, and not like other teachings with uncertainty and walking in the darkness. T2. Death and birth, Qt and Patisandhi, are only far away from each other in realms of existence, e.g., dies as human and reborn as Devata. As Dharma, they are very close to each other. After death and hell birth arises, as an example for painful birth. This dying karma is near to death. This near karma is making this birth. The karma you had done before, such as building pagoda and monastery, were quite far away. Therefore, the near karma gives the result. The good karmas of the past had done before not arise at the time of death. So, it's called asana karma, maranasana karma, near-death karma. Who has done it? At near dying, its overwhelming with Vedana and dukkha Vedana is unbearable. The mind also becomes unbearable. You have to separate Vedana with anatta. Instead, we combine Vedana with atta. For that I want you do the contemplation from now on, so that at the time of death, you'll know that it's Vedana or the impermanence of anatta. I want you all to practice hard earlier to overcome Vedana and seeing their vanishing of anatta. At near death it becomes anatta mind. Anatta is a knowledge. After that death comes and becomes arahant at the same time. Even not become an arahant, after death to a blissful birth. If you can't bear dukkha Vedana and near death, the 5 mind moments of dosa arise, as anguished state. Death and dosa mind are near to each other at that time. Therefore, the wholesome karmas you have done before can't give the result. Instead the near karma gives the result. It's called asana karma, near-death karma. Therefore, it needs to contemplate Vedana to become anatta. Sayadaw gave the example of the asana karma with the older bulls near the entrance of a cow pen. The older bulls come out first when the cow pen is opened in the early morning because they are near the entrance. Here older bulls are asana karma and the entrance is death. Other habitual karma, asanaka karma, are far away. But they'll give the results later. Now at this time you're in good health, and with contemplation to know the impermanence of Vedana. Later, if Vedana come, you will see the vanishing of it. And you will die as a Magga, Phala person because you discern impermanence with the contemplation at near death. It's a great loss if you do not exercise for dying. We should take this point very serious. For someone in practice, even not becomes an arahant and near death it can be. Why is that? Because near death has strong determination. At that time you will not pay attention to family matters and has strong effort. Some disciples of Sayadaw cut off communication with their family members when they were near death. They shut themselves in their rooms, listening to Sayadaw's talks and contemplating their khandhas and died. You will encounter with the worst situation if you are taking it easy and relax now. With the practicing kamma at near death, it's also these Vedana. The practice kamma before death was just normal desire, chanda, viriya and panna. Now at near death, the chanda, viriya and panna are becoming stronger, because it's the last hope. As like Cittanupassana is important in daily life, and near the entrance of death Vedananupassana is also important. Vedana arising is anatta and vanishing is also anatta. They are arising and vanishing in accordance with their nature. The mind is seeing anatta and becomes asana kamma, and then becomes arahant, if not and takes rebirth in the blissful plane. Sayadaw told the differences between human beings and Devata. Devata doesn't have bile, phlegm, mucus and blood like human being. So, the mind of a Devata is bright and clear. Human has a lot of phlegm and mucus full of the volume of a condensed milk which can affect the mind base. In the celestial realm and continues the contemplation, with a blip discerns impermanence. It doesn't have any obstruction because Devata body doesn't have phlegm, mucus, bile, blood, etc. There is only one mind separated, i.e., between death and birth, them. It can enter the stream instantly. You can remember your merit only without the coarse Vedana, i.e., painful feeling, otherwise you can't if it's coarse. Now, you know that people not doing the practice will be in danger. I am telling you clearly that by doing the practice will be successful, including the benefit and the faults without it. At near dying by reciting the Metta Sutta is impossible because can't hear anymore, depend on the situations. Near death mostly dukkha Vedana arises. One dies with anger or anguish without the habitual kamma. Sayadaw gave the story of the 30 monks at the time of the Buddha to illustrate the benefit of habitual kamma. 30 monks were practicing in a forest. A tiger came and took for a monk every night. At last they knew the situation and they had to alarm each other if the tiger came back again. It came back again and dragged a monk away. The other monks were chasing to save the victim until they couldn't follow anymore. They reminded the victim to rely on his practice. The victim overcame the dukkha Vedana because of his habitual practice, kamma, and became arahant before passing away. At the time of seeing anicca even Vedana not appears in the yogi mind. Separate Vedana with contemplation and discern anicca, anatta. All conditioned phenomena are anicca and dukkha. All dharmas are anatta. Do you still see Vedana? You only see the vanishing. Later he became an arahant before passing away. It was not by Vedana, but with anicca, dukkha and anatta. You will see this only if you are practicing now. One will die with anger or anguish if no contemplation, whereas he will have the path factors with contemplation. You have to prepare for it if you don't want to die with an unpleasant death. At near death, you can't rely on other things. Before that, you have to prepare for the anicca, dukkha and anatta. Near death, even not die with anguish and with the attachment to family members and wealth becomes pita, hungry ghost. Die with delusion of unclear mind becomes animal. You have to suffer by the arrangement of asana kamma. Vedana are killing the whole world. With stupidity, the whole world is chasing the killers out of love. Therefore, it's very important. Near death is overwhelming by Vedana. So, don't take it lightly. With it the wholesome mind can't arise. Someone has the preparation and it doesn't have power over him. Even it can send to Nibbāna. Vedana is also a nutriment, ahara. The Buddha taught 4 kinds of nutriments. These are 1. Phassa, contact, 2. Satana, volition, 3. Consciousness, 4. Foods. Another meaning of ahara is the cause carries the result with it. 1 to 3 are mind nutriments, and 4 is physical. With phassa different types of Vedana arise. Satana conditions rebirth, linking consciousness, one of the important causes. Here consciousness is rebirth, consciousness, and it conditions mind, matter, nama, rupa. It increases new matters with foods. One frees from samsara with clear knowing of these 4 aharas. One who can abandon foods becomes anagaman. Furthermore, he becomes arahant if overcoming phassa, Vedana. One can abandon tanha and becomes arahant if seeing the faults of satana, kamma. It has the danger of contact with sense objects with phassa existing. It has the danger of becoming bhava, while satana exists. It has the danger of connecting mind, matter when consciousness exists. We have to eat foods to free from the other 3 dangers. Abandon tanha which we are conditioned by them. This is from Sayadaw Dr. Nandamala Bhivamsa's talk. So, we're alive with Vedana. How hell beings survive in hell? Nobody comes to feed them. They're suffering with dukkha Vedana. Their Vedana are ahara. At the time of the Buddha there were large pitas. Their bodies were as high as a palm tree. Their mouths were tiny as a needle hole. It made by kammas. Kammaniyama asinti yo. The law of kamma is unthinkable. They didn't have the kamma to eat foods. They were alive with Vedanahara. In one of his talks also referring it as kamahara. It includes mind if you contemplate Vedana, and vice versa. Then, contemplate the one more distinctive to you. And it's easy to catch on. In regards to Vedana, when it's pleasant, oh, it's good. When painful, it's pain. Sayadaw gave some examples of them. With Vedana, it starts becoming uncomfortable. It does not become severe, i.e., painful feeling, if you can contemplate it. This point is important for dealing with Vedana. See the following. You contemplate the beginning of Vedana and big Vedana not arises. Sitting and watching the in-breath and out-breath, the Vedana will arise. It's not there when you observe it because contemplative mind can arise only after it's passing away. Vedana is arising and vanishing, kaya, vaya. Contemplative mind is magga. After that, 3 kinds of Vedana arise accordingly. You can contemplate at every time of its arising, and it becomes kaya, vaya, anicca and magga. Vanishing is as an object benefiting the magga. With watching and observing, anicca, magga are arising accordingly. Dhamma talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 23rd of August 1962. Seeing Nibbāna with the pure mind. You must know about Nibbāna in practicing Dhamma to Nibbāna. To know about the place of the destination and try to practice for arriving there. If not, you will not try for it. King Milinda wanted to know the following 6 questions and he asked then. Nagasena. 1 phenomena arisen by karma. 2 phenomena arisen by causes. 3 phenomena arisen by temperature, Utu. 4 phenomena not arisen by karma. 5 phenomena not arisen by causes. 6 phenomena not arisen by Utu. 1 satana volition, karma causes living beings to arise. Karma causes mind and matter to arise. 2 seeds, trees and forest fire arisen by causes, fire, seeds. 3 temperature causes earth, water, air and mountain to arise. Sky and Nibbāna phenomena are not arisen by karma, causes and temperature. Nibbāna is not the path of karma. You have to remember it as the path of knowledge, Nana, instead. Sayadaw made a critical view on people asking Nibbāna with prayers and merits. If you try to attain Nibbāna with karma will not get it. I want you to try it with Nana. You can't connect it with cause and effect. Therefore every day I am talking to you searching with knowledge. You must regard knowledge, Nana, as the main point, factor. Nibbāna is the way with the path factors of right view, Samadhi Magan. Nibbāna is Nana way. Therefore the Buddha was searching Nibbāna with knowledge and leaving karma behind. You have your own aging and death. Can you separate aging and death with you? Then, Nagasena explained Nibbāna to King Milinda. It's not arising at the present. If arising at the present and everyone'll see it. Also it not had arisen. This is not the kind of Dharma arisen by others. Not the past Dharma, and not the present Dharma, also not a future Dharma. Some people makes prayers such as, may we realize Nibbāna in the end of our lives. Sayadaw corrected their mistakes. The ending of becoming never happens without practice. This is the same as, may we never realize Nibbāna. Don't put the words of at the end of my life in your prayers. It should be only, may my practice supports the realization of Nibbāna. You have to make it yourself if you want to end it. It is wrong if you take it as it will end by itself. It will end if you want to end it by practice and meeting with a spiritual friend, Kalinamata. You have to correct your traditional view. It will never end if you leave it by itself, i.e., it's important of the practice and not only rely on karma. It's not a kind of Dharma made by other. Therefore the Buddha said, teaching people is my task. Practicing is your duty. Nibbāna is free from 3 periods of time. Had arisen, is arising and will arise. If it's free from the periods of time, should we take it as not existing? We can't know it with the 5 sense doors of the eye, body, etc., among the 6 senses doors. We can only know and see with the mind door. Do you satisfy with the saying of looking with the mind? Sleeping and thinking are also the mind. So you can ask me as does every mind can see Nibbāna? With a clear question and will appreciate the answer. You can see it with the pure mind, whereas you can't if it's not pure. Only with the mind not mixed with kilesa. Your mind is still not pure if you're still not seeing Nibbāna. If practicing, we are the disciples of the Arya. Don't mix up with the 5 hindrances. Knowledge, Nana, becomes quite sharp with the discerning of impermanence and disenchantment. But it's still in the asava of the sense sphere. Vipassana knowledges are still mixed with kilesa, still not free from the sphere of asava. There are three types of mind: mano, 1 mano mixed with kilesa, 2 nana mind, in the sphere of kilesa, 3 mano free from kilesa. The mind will see Nibbāna when it thoroughly penetrated dukkha and not wanting of it. It will be free from kilesa, and seeing Nibbāna only when Magga Chitta arises. Even the arising of insight knowledges are still under the influence of ignorance. The pure Nana is Lokuttara Nana. It's still not pure if not arriving to the path knowledge. It's still not pure after the disenchantment and not ending of it. So this is about pure knowledge and not kamma. At the time the mind is pure will see Nibbāna. This is the thing of a noble person, Aryan. So it's free from the 3 periods of time. Today we know about ourselves. Nibbāna does not accept someone who has the leprosy of kilesa. People don't want to go Nibbāna. Instead they are wanting to be near the fire. They have the kilesa leprosy so that they can't close to Nibbāna. This simile came from the Magandiya Sutta. Nibbāna has nothing to do with the place. The mind is pure at the time, can see it at anywhere and at any time. Purity and impurity of the mind depend on sharp or not sharp knowledges. So insight knowledges arise for this process. Also has connection with far or not far from kilesa. In the Dhammakaka Pavatana Sutta, the first discourse mentioned 3 knowledges: 1 Udayabhaya Nana, or Yathabhuta Nana, the knowledge of rise and fall; 2 Nibbida Nana, knowledge of disenchantment; 3 Magga Nana, the path knowledge. It had arranged for kilesa. 1 knowing anicca, dukkha and anatta are not yet disenchanting to the mind and body. 2 is the knowledge of the middle level. 3 seeing Nibbāna with the freedom from the sphere of dukkha. 1 and 2 are Sankhare Pasati. Seeing Sankhara Dhamma. 3 is Nibbānamagasa, Nibbānamphalasa, seeing Nibbāna with path and fruition knowledges. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 29th of August 1962. 2 ways of dying. Listening to Dhamma talks is for the freedom of death. This was true for Sayadaw and his disciples. Is it true for all Buddhists? Some Buddhists expounded new ideas and philosophy for the becoming, bhava, tanha. During the listening of talk, we are moving towards death. I'll teach you the way of dying. Told the story of Ven. Phaguna, the sick monk at near death. Kanda accepts everything which you all fear of. Therefore, it becomes worsening if you're staying longer with it. All dukkha are accumulated with it. Someone not knowing the truth is a crazy and blind person. Do you still have desire for this useless kanda? Sayadaw mentioned some problems of the kanda. It's not beneficial to look after the kanda. It's only moving towards aging, sickness and death. It is dukkha sakka to collect wealth and other things for this kanda without any benefit. But it's never arising to our mind as enough is enough. Then, Phaguna died as an anagaman, non-returner. His eye, etc., bodily faculties were clear and bright and looked like an alive person. There are 2 ways of dying. Right pointing arrow. 1 die with listening to talks. 2 contemplation on one's kanda and die. You have to listen to the kind of Dhamma talks to understand dukkha sakka. This is very important point to keep in mind because Ven. Sariputta gave a talk to his friend, the Brahmin who was dying with samatha and reborn as a Brahma god. Later he had to go there again and gave another talk on truth, Sakka Dhamma. He also gave Sakka Dhamma to Anathapindika at his deathbed. It should be this kind of talks. If the dying person had time and listened to the Buddha's talk or one of the disciples' talk, hear then. Phuguna listened to the Buddha's talk. If you don't have time for these and contemplate by yourself near death. Painful feeling will usually arise at near death dukkha. Contemplate it as impermanent, oppressive, dukkha sakka khandha and follow with maggan. Therefore, it is dying with magga in this way. Someone in pain is the nature of dukkha vedana. With the arising and vanishing that vedana disappears. Vedana is anicca and contemplative mind is anicca nana. It's not easy to listen to talk near death. You have to look for a person to give talk. Also he must be a person can give sakka dhamma. Nowadays is easy because we can access recorded tapes on Dhamma. Some of Mogok Sayadaw's close disciples were dying by listening to his recorded tapes. In Sayadaw's biography, once time he mentioned to a disciple the benefit of recorded tapes and recorder. If we can use it properly, even it can send us to Nibbāna and blissful births. Using it wrongly send us to hells, animals and ghosts realms. Nowadays media are choosing the second way. Doors to hells, animals and ghost realms are opening to most of us. Therefore the best way of dying is with one's own contemplation or practice. King Milinda asked, "Can all attain Nibbāna?" The answer was not all. The one who can attain Nibbāna is 1. What should have to be known with penetration must penetrate it. What should have to know with analysis has to analyze. 2. What should have to abandon has to abandon. 3. What should must realize has to realize. 4. What should have to develop has to develop. All these are about the noble truths. One who knows the truths will attain Nibbāna. This is no 1 point. There only is 0 left if you don't even try one of them. And then I myself can't help you. If you try one dukkha sakka, all are included. This was from Sakkasamyutta. The Maggan analyze it as dukkha sakka. So it includes magga sakka. Magga arises and samadaya ceases. Kadanirodho nibbānam, the cessation of khandha, is nibbāna. And nirodha sakka appears. Note. On sickness and dying, here we can see 2 talks on dying. These were given over a month before his death. These are good for reflection on sickness and dying, food for the heart. In Sayadaw's last year of life, i.e., 1962, his style of talks was changing slightly. Most of them had the sense of strong samvega on aging, sickness, death and sufferings. He was very concerned about the Dharma welfare of his listeners, always urging them to practice diligently to transcend dukkha, and there was not much time for them. It was also a hint for his disciples of his passing away in the near future. I had seen a Chinese documentary film on sickness and dying of old people. There were 2 groups of them, ordinary people and Buddhist yogis. The first group had no Dharma knowledge and practice. When they were close to death, or at dying with chronic diseases such as incurable cancer, which made them suffered a lot physically and mentally. They were struggling for their lives with difficult breathing and so forth. It is very painful for your heart to see their difficult conditions and suffering. The scene of old Buddhist yogis made your heart feeling with joy and inspiration. Their dying and death were quite remarkable. Some of them were in sitting postures and passed away calmly. It seemed to be they were like mature yogis. Some of them were in lying postures and with the smile on their faces, which like in Sayadaw's talk, dying with the smile and grimace. I don't know their ways of practice, and it could be from Pure Land system. Among these yogis I recognize one of them. She was Miss Song Kue Lin, who died in 2010 at the age of 50 with severe cancer of the womb. I had listened to her video lecture on her tragic story. It resulted from her over-sensual pleasure with men. When she found out about her deadly cancer, by then, she had already had relationship with more than 40 men. Everything had its causes. When she was young in her teens, she was influenced by polluted media, such as films, TV, etc. She was wrongly educated by these negative media and followed the wrong way of life. Later she married a man and has a son with him. This man later ended up in a prison. The son also born with mental disability. Because of her terminal cancer, she only had 3 months to live. She also had an old mother to look after. I can feel and understand her miserable conditions with sufferings. We can use Dharma to contemplate and reflect on her life. In the Mangala Sutta, Discourse on Blessings, the first 2 blessings were, "Not consort with the fools and consort with the wise." Her life of degradation began with a life of consorting with fools, and here that includes unhealthy media and men. Here we can see the penetrative wisdom of the Buddha. With this kind of polluted mind and actions, she could never meet a good husband and gave birth to an abnormal son where nothing strange about it. It happened accordingly to the natural law of mind and karma actions. Karma, negative forces only attract negative phenomena. Every living being carrying wholesome and unwholesome karmic energies with them in the round of existence. The last 3 months of her life were giving her the opportunity to change its destiny towards some direction. In 2010, a small group of people came to her NE province and gave some public lectures for a few days in the provincial city. All of these personal lectures were based on personal experiences, knowledge of Chinese culture and moral education that have dramatically changed the lives of these people. Fortunately, she came to these talks and introduced herself to the group, becoming one of the educators herself. These people were from all walks of life, some doctors, scholars, businessmen and women, etc. This association with the wise changed her life of 3 months. Her mind and actions were in the right direction, which alleviates some of her mental pain. In this group there were some who highly educated with other skills helping her with the disease and mental pain. Even her physical pain and the cancer situation was feeling a little better. They introduced her to the Pure Land practice, and with it, she ended her life wisely in a very short period. Some of her practice were confession, repentance, service and Dharma practices. At last, she died peacefully and her physical condition was not looked like a patient at all. Her face was calm, and the body limbs were soft and pliable. All these were the signs of good rebirth. There are 2 important blessings which changed her miserable life into a peaceful ending. These are consorting with the wise and directing oneself rightly. Without association with wise and compassionate Kalyana Mittas, her life ending could be very miserable, and it would lead to the bad destination. Aging, sickness and death are our great teachers and divine messengers. Here divine messengers refer to the Devadatta Sutta, Minnesota 130, Devadatta Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya. True wisdom and compassion arise only by understanding dukkha profoundly. Wisdom and compassion are inseparable like 2 sides of a coin. The art of living and dying are very important for everyone. We can only get this kind of precious education from the Buddha Dharma. Everyone should train themselves with the Dharma, otherwise we will all regret it later. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. No date noted. Dependency is wavering. It mentioned that someone had to fulfill these 2 factors if he wanted to enter the stream in the Petakapadesa text, an old commentary, 1 listening to Sakka Dhamma, and 2 after that, having right attention, such as materiality, feeling, consciousness, dukkha sakka, etc. There are 2 ways of knowing the truth: knowing by hearing from a teacher's teachings, and practicing accordingly to the teaching, and knowing directly, making decision by oneself. There are also 2 kinds of right attention. Right attention from the teacher's teachings, and right attention come from direct practice. Decision comes from right attention, and with the practice will realize the path knowledge. By knowing thoroughly as real dukkha sakka and dukkha disappears, khandha disappears. You know dukkha exists and also not exists. It's penetrating dukkha and realizing the cessation. The 4 noble truths will be completed. Only one can make one's own decision. Heavenly mansions in the celestial realm, hell fire and walks in the hell has arisen are waiting for us. Here dukkha ceases and all these things ready for us are disappeared. With dukkha ceases and the disappearance of the results, these are happening at the same time. So you ought to do this task. If you still don't arrive to this end of knowledge and shouldn't relax or feel safe. We have uncountable wholesome and unwholesome karmas of our own. The untrained mind usually takes pleasure in unwholesome things. The defiled mind only does defiled things. Therefore we can justify our wholesome and unwholesome merits and demerits. Closing square bracket. You have to demolish the 4 painful rebirths from here. You must take it seriously for your own matter. You have a lot of your own debts. You are still immersed in pleasures. What kind of people you are. The Buddha taught the way to Nibbāna. Tanha and Ditthi are connecting to each other. As example, my son, etc. It's in the state of wavering if you always have dependency on Tanha and Ditthi. Sayadaw gave the following example. Orchids grow on a rock. With the earthquake, the rock is shaking and the orchids also. In the Chanavada Sutta, Ven. Mahakunda, Sariputta's younger brother, reminded Ven. Channa, who was very ill and wanted to commit suicide. He told to Ven. Channa, the Buddha taught the monks constantly giving close attention to this point. It was wavering for someone who had dependency, whereas it was no wavering for someone who was independent. Without wavering, there was tranquility and no inclination. Without inclination, there is no coming and going, nor passing away and being reborn. There was neither here nor beyond nor in between these 2. This was the end of dukkha. Closing square bracket. Our khandhas connect with Tanha and Ditthi, e.g., if you're sick. The khandha is always changing and perishing. If you always have affection to the khandha with Tanha and Ditthi and it's always connecting. These 2 dharmas are very important. I.e., Tanha, Ditthi and khandha. You're very pleasing with the wavering. There is no wavering if khandha and Tanha, Ditthi are not connected. How to do it for not having wavering? By watching and observing the khandha, you'll see its unstoppable perishing. If you see impermanence, Tanha, Ditthi is falling off. Tanha and Ditthi are the closest to our khandha. Vipassana is watching and observing the nature of the khandha for what is happening to it. If it's rising and falling, just know it as rising and falling. If it's in dukkha, just know it as in dukkha. If it's showing not yours, just know it as not yours. Watching and observing it like a stranger, alien, you will know the anatta nature. Someone not in wavering, mind and body are peaceful and he is free from kilesa. You will be free from kilesa by knowing its nature thoroughly. Doing the sitting and observing do you need to be taught? Watching and observing with Nana, the kanda will tell its nature. You will understand dukkha nature with a lot of contemplation. It has dukkha and only tells dukkha to you about dukkha.